Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Splat. Now then, as many of you will know, I do frequently put up videos about football, and today is one of those days. So I suppose my hand has been forced somewhat by events over in the UK with the sacking of England manager Ciao Capello, or the resignation of England manager Ciao Capello, to be more accurate. For those of you who haven't been following the story, a very brief wrap-up is that the captain of the England team, John Terry, back in October, allegedly racially abused a black footballer named Anton Ferdinand during a game for his club side Chelsea against Ferdinand's QPR at Queen's Park Rangers. That matter has now gone into the courts in the UK, and as such can't be talked about, in a public forum as such. But the Football Association, who run national team matters in England, have decided to remove the captaincy from John Terry. They feel that while he's under investigation, he shouldn't be allowed to be captain. However, he is free to play. Ciao Capello was then seen to criticise the move on Italian television, talking about it. He is an Italian man, talking to some Italians. There was an emergency meeting that was held in the UK within the last 24 hours, and Capello has decided to quit. So now England, the England national team, 4 and a bit months out from the Euros, a major tournament, are without a manager. Now it seems very likely that Harry Redknapp will probably be appointed the manager. He's the overwhelming favourite amongst the public. The FA, members of the FA have spoken highly of him. It's just a question of whether they can get him to agree to leave Spurs in the middle of the season and come manage England. It is possible they might do a deal with Spurs where they say, okay, he can manage Spurs up until the end of the season and manage England at the same time, but once the Euros are over, he's exclusively the England manager. That deal might work. Alternatively, there's a few other options floating around. Roy Hodgson certainly could be appointed. Stuart Pearce, who's the manager of the under-21s, is also being considered. I know that Rafa Benitez is still living in England and available, but it's unlikely that they'll go for the FA will go for a non-English manager. So, that aside, I wanted to talk more about just about Capello leaving, and quite frankly, I think that his big mistake was making John Terry the England captain for a second time. For those of you who don't know, back a couple of years ago, John Terry was caught up in a bit of a media storm when some of his personal affairs were brought into the public eye. He had an affair with the former partner of a former teammate, Wayne Bridge. So Terry and Bridge, there was a bit of a fallout between them. He was stripped of the England captaincy at that point. And hello? Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Sock delivery. Yes, so John Terry, after this affair, was stripped of the England captaincy. It was given to Rio Ferdinand ahead of the World Cup in South Africa. Now then, Ferdinand couldn't take part in the World Cup because he was injured just before it. Captaincy then went to Steven Gerrard, and then after the tournament ended in a bit of a disaster, it was, who is going to be the captain from here on in? And Capello just went John Terry again, which I think was wrong. And I think it has cost Capello his job. And the reason for giving Terry the captaincy sort of made sense. He had been the captain for a couple of years. By that time, by the end of the World Cup, the affair with between him and Wayne Bridge had blown over, and he was, I suppose, eligible. It's just that he is someone of a dubious character. He is. It is just that simple. He does have a dubious character, and the captain of the England national team is a very important role. Probably one of the most important sports captains in the world. The reasons for that is because a lot of English people have this idea that their captain should be like the great Bobby Moore, World Cup winning captain in 1966, who was an absolutely lovely man, real gentleman, and just all-round good guy. And England's had quite a few good captains. The most recent captain that was probably agreeable was David Beckham, because he absolutely loved doing the England thing. An England captain is supposed to represent all that is good about being English, which is important to English people because, quite frankly, nowadays in the country there isn't much to be proud of. So, who should be the England captain? Certainly not John Terry. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think he should really play for England again, to be honest. Not just because of all the personal matters, but quite frankly, I think there are other centre-backs that should be playing ahead of him for the future success of the England team. To be honest, I think most of the players who are over the age of 30 and 31 shouldn't probably be picked again by whoever takes over, and I think that whoever does take over, probably Harry Redknapp, should try and use the Euros to blood players, who are aged, between 30 and 18, the younger players, get them ready to play, and then have a proper crack at the World Cup in Brazil in a couple of years' time. There are some players in the 30s who I'd say still deserve a place in this tournament squad. Scott Parker, who's 31, Ashley Cole, who's 31, Steven Gerrard, who's 30, I think he's also 31. Those three I'd take. The others, I don't think Rio Ferdinand is that good anymore as a centre-back, and as a United fan it does pain me to say that, and I still think he's good enough for Premier League football and other matches like that, but not all the time, and certainly at the international level. I'd take him in the squad, I suppose, maybe, but I'm not sure he'd be a starting centre-back. So I think England do need to look at the likes of Chris Smalling and Phil Jones, both showing promise. They might be a little bit young. You've got Michael Dawson, if he ever gets over his injury concerns, he could and should play. Gary Cahill, despite having a bit of a poor season with Bolton and now being at Chelsea, I think he has shown some promise that he could profit in that position. Okay, to be honest, John Terry is actually probably one of the better centre-backs that England have, but he shouldn't be playing beyond Euro 2012, and I think that a lot of the toxic atmosphere that could be created by him being there might warrant him not going, in my opinion. Of course, I could be completely wrong. Captain for the future, in the immediate future, I'd definitely give it to Scott Parker, just for the remainder of the, until the end of the Euros. He's a good, hard-working lad, very popular amongst the majority of fans of England, and he hasn't had any of these, outside public affairs going on in his life. Beyond the Euros, looking to the future, Joe Hart looks potentially being a good captain. There's some people that say goalkeepers don't make good captains. I think they're wrong, personally. I think Joe Hart has certainly shown he's very sensible and level-headed. He could certainly do the job if he ever gets fit again. Maybe in a few years Jack Wilshere would be a good candidate, but right now I'd have to say no. I'd say Scott Parker short-term, Joe Hart long-term. But, this is all very immediate and reactionary. The main thing is I'm just very surprised that Capello has gone. But at the same time, maybe it's a good thing for England. Maybe dragging out the whole... he was going to leave after Euro 2012 anyway, and maybe just... if this dragged on, it would have been bad for the spirit of the team, and everyone might have just been glad to get the Euros out of the way. At least, now, whoever comes in, it'll be pretty interesting. Anyway, it's just international football ultimately. It's nowhere near as important as the exploits of Manchester United. That's my opinion. Okay, I've got on long enough. Thank you all for listening. And yes, obviously we await the appointment of the next England manager with great anticipation. Hope you've all enjoyed this, and if you're not one of the football ones, you've probably already turned off anyway, but tomorrow won't be a football one, I promise, unless there's something very interesting. Okay, until then, bye-bye.